Hey everybody, you're watching Capital Hunter, and I got a bunch of coins here that a subscriber sent to me in the mail, asked me to take a look at them. There might be some errors, some different varieties, die varieties in particular. We're going to take a peek and see what he's got here. Is there anything significant? Definitely some cool stuff for sure. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel Capital Hunter. There are lots of coin collectors out there and everybody collects a little bit differently. Some people collect typesets, some people collect just one denomination, some people like me might just collect anything and everything. Some people, like the subscriber who sent me these coins, is very interested in errors, varieties, and those sorts of things, and sent me some coins he wanted me to take a look at to see what I thought. So these aren't necessarily not all of them, the coins that you see listed, say, in the Charlton catalog, but maybe some that you might see on Coins in Canada. Some collectors with a really sharp eye are looking for lesser known die varieties, die cracks, die chips, cuds, things like that, that might not be so widespread, but of course dies get worked pretty hard. As soon as they start to show wear, they're swapped out for new ones. So some varieties, die cracks, die chips, might be common. Some might not be all that common, but there might be many different variations on coinage. We're going to take a look at some of the things that he sent me here and provide some feedback to him and some observations on what we've got. We're going to start with this nickel here from 2016, and it really does look odd, doesn't it? You can see it's got some gold coloring. Well, nickels in Canada in 2016 and currently are made of multiply plated steel, and this might very well be an error where part of the plating is missing. We'll flip it over and see that this side is almost completely missing that. Let's take a closer look under the scope. All right, so I've got that there, and we'll take a closer look, and you can see the coloring is very different. And before he sent me these coins to look at, he had sent me some pictures, and it's often really hard with pictures, depending on the quality or how close or how far away the pictures are, to actually see. You really need to see a coin in hand. And something like this, it's always hard to tell if it's been chemically altered, if it's been dipped, if it's damaged, or if it might actually be a mint error. And this one certainly looks like it's missing some of that plating. You can see around the beads, some of it is still there. I mean, I am not an expert on these sorts of things necessarily, but by the look of it, this could very well be some kind of a plating issue, but it also might be chemically altered. There are things that you could do to the surface of a coin that would remove some of the nickel plating that's on here. It's very thin, but if I found this coin, I would certainly hold on to it because this is very cool. This is an anomaly for sure. Interesting. Here's another one. This is a 1990 Canadian nickel, and you might know where I'm going to go with this one. One of my favorite varieties is the Bare Belly, and he's noted on here this is a full Bare Belly, and the coin is in beautiful condition. I'm going to put it under the scope. We'll take a peek, and this really is the most significant Bare Belly I've seen. There's just a little strip of fur here, and I apologize, in the flip we're going to get a bit of a glare off the plastic there. But look at that, almost all of that detail is completely gone. Even over here, these would be the high points of the die that were over polished. This one is really remarkable. We've got full Bare Belly on that one. That is fantastic. Here's a 2001 P nickel, and he's noted here that this has extra metal under the neck. When we take a look at it here, there's actually extra metal in a number of different places. It's very strange, but there is basically a little die chip right here at the base of the queen's neck. But have a look at the legend, Regina. I see extra metal all at the top of these letters. This die was significantly overworked. There it is on the R, the E, the I, the N, the A. And if I go over to the other side, there might be a little bit, oh yeah, like on these letters as well, you can see little dots and extra little blobs here. So this particular die, it probably was retired shortly after this coin was produced because it was actually falling apart, disintegrating. Little bits were coming off of the die in various places. And I don't think I've seen a 2001 nickel quite like this. Here's another 1990, and he's noted that this has an odd surface strike. I will just throw this one under the scope as well. And you can see it's very fuzzy. Now, this one here, my inclination would be to think that this is actually post-mint damage. This doesn't look like, on both sides of the coin, as though this is a strike issue. I don't even think it is a planchet issue. I think, in fact, what this is a coin that has some kind of a post-mint damage, possibly chemically altered or something like that, like acid dipped or something. It's got damage on the rim. You can see it's kind of got a flattened spot here. So, when we're looking for errors and we're looking really closely, we tend to find anything that looks unusual, but it isn't always a mint error. In this case, I can't tell 100%. There's different coloration on here, but in my estimation, this is probably just post-mint damage, particularly because there is other damage on the coin as well. Here's a 1965 that he wondered if it had doubling on the legend. I have to say this coin is in pretty rough condition, and just looking at it like this, I don't see any doubling, but we'll put it under the scope and see. I mean, you can see this coin has definitely seen better days. There might be some doubling under here. This wouldn't be a double die. If anything, this might be die deterioration doubling. It could be machine doubling. I think it's not spreading out as the coin, across the coin here. So I don't think it's a double die. I think with all of the damage on the coin, it's really hard to see. If anything, it probably might be some kind of die deterioration that's causing that, or machine doubling. And you can see this coin has certainly seen better days. Now, this is an interesting one. He's got it marked here 1964 or earlier, and we know that because it has a laureate portrait on it. And he's asked me to look at this one and send it back. I'm going to take it out of the flip. He's only put one staple in here so I can get it out. And we'll take a look at it because this coin here is post-mint damage, and I'll show you why. First of all, we can see that this is pretty roughly shaped coin. It's, it certainly wouldn't have left the mint like this, that's for sure. What's really interesting, though, is that you can see that it's a laureate portrait and you can see some letters, but what we have here is a vice job. Somebody has taken an actual Queen Elizabeth coin and has set it in a vice and has put the impression of the obverse of one coin on this. Let's take a closer look. So there are a couple of giveaways here, and that is that the portrait is backwards, right? The actual Queen Laureate portrait, the hair is on the other side and the Queen is facing the right. In this case, she's facing left, which she wouldn't be doing. The other thing is that all of the legend, Elizabeth II Di Grazia, is also backwards. And it's also impressed into this coin, if it actually is a coin. It's certainly like a piece of copper, it looks like. But so what's happened is somebody's taken a real coin, put it in a vise, mashed it together, and pressed the design of that coin onto the surface of this one here, giving the impression that it's some kind of a weird backwards error coin. Certainly a neat coin to find out there. Why somebody would have done this, I have no idea. But this isn't actually a mint error. This is somebody having fun with a coin and putting it back into circulation. But certainly a cool find. So here are a few that are in ICCS flips. So this is a coin grading company. This is the most reputable coin grading company in Canada, International Coin Certification Service. And you can see that these are all marked return and they indicate an error. So let's start with this one here, 2007, 10 cents. We got a dime here and he's marked on it that it's off center. And you can actually see it's pretty significantly off center. Admittedly, this coin is pretty significantly circulated. It's in pretty rough shape. We can see that there is a lot of extra metal beyond the rim here. So at the very least, a misaligned die for sure. But we can see the full rim on this side, so maybe not quite considered off center. So why would ICCS have returned this coin? And I think the most likely answer is that they actually just don't certify a lot of errors, certainly ones that aren't very common. This one might still be considered within specifications. We're not missing any of the design, but they're not certifying and holdering errors like that. This one definitely, you can see by the naked eye, is has a misaligned die for sure, but just not recognized by ICCS. And I think that's the case with these ones here. This one is a 2012. This one's also marked as off center, but as you can see, it is probably within specification, not all that significant. And the coin's also very circulated, so it wouldn't command a high grade anyhow, probably wouldn't have much value. Who would value this are variety collectors like this subscriber, who is scoping a lot of coins to find the anomalies that most people pass over. So I think this has value for him in his collection, but wasn't something that ICCS recognized and may not be interesting for a lot of collectors. Interestingly, Hans Zoll was a very well-known collector in the 60s, put out a guide of these kinds of errors and varieties, particularly die varieties, die chips, die cracks, things like that. Ones that are very much, I'd consider, lesser known and maybe not collected by a lot of numismatists. You have to say that one really slow to get it all out. But definitely some collectors find that guide and those varieties to be very interesting. The guide's very helpful. So the third one here is a 2010 nickel, and he's noted that it's a weak strike. Let's take a peek. So looking at it, it may very well be a grease-filled die. You can see it's quite weak. We're missing some of the beads. You can barely see the 5 cents and the maple leaf over here. And a lot of the beaver is missing design. So probably a filled die, most likely grease. This is a cool one to find. Again, it's pretty circulated, but again, something that isn't really an error particularly, and I guess ICCS doesn't recognize those sorts of varieties. Here is a 2012, and he's noted there's a blob under the first two, so some kind of a die chip. I can't see it with the naked eye. When I put it under the scope, it's not very obvious, but I think it might be there. There's definitely something underneath the zero. It's some kind of environmental damage. I think there is the ever so small little dot right here. That might very well be a die chip. It's hard to tell sometimes under the scope if it is damaged, like an impression on the coin, but if it's raised, it's a die chip. And what you might see as this die continued to wear is that subsequent coins might have had a more significant die chip below the two. This might be the very, very beginning of the wear of this die here. This is so minor that I don't think most collectors would see it, and I don't think most collectors would value this. You have to be a hardcore variety collector like my subscriber to notice this. So I expect he's got a pretty sharp eye, and he's looking at these coins and scoping many of them to see if he can find these varieties. But that's how you find them. A lot of times, if you're just looking with the naked eye, you're not going to see it. But if you're looking, you will find some things. Here's another similar example, extra metal around the zero. And I'll tell you, I had a hard time kind of seeing this one too, but it's very much the same as the last one. It's a small little dot. It might even be like, I see a little something in the zero there too. So this would be a very minor die chip. Again, whether or not this is collectible is really in the eyes of the beholder or the eye of the collector, I suppose. Myself, I think like most collectors, I'm drawn to the ones that are more significant, right? The ones that are easier to see. And the ones that are more famous are the ones that are visible to the naked eye, right? Those are the ones that catch the attention of the broader public. Not everybody is going to be scoping coins quite to this degree, but you can see it. It's there. It's just very small. Last up, almost last up, we got a 1980, and there is a variety that a lot of people look for, and it is the double date. And it's really a hard one to see, and this one here might well be it. I can see a little bit of dye deterioration doubling at the base of this loop of the 9. And what also gives it away is some of the extra thickness in the 1, extra thickness in the 9, and in the 0, you can kind of see a little bit of a line there. So that's the 1980 double date. To the naked eye, you might just notice some extra thickness. Under a scope, you might then see the doubling, those lines. It's mostly dye deterioration that we're seeing. And so there aren't a lot of double dyes in Canadian coins, but this is a variety that people are looking for, and I found a couple. Now, this is the last one up, and this is not an error or a variety per se. I think this is one that he just sent me as a thank you for having a look at these coins. This is an oldie. Check this out. This is Queen Victoria 1889. It's from Jamaica. It is a farthing. Check that out. Jamaica farthing, 1889. I don't have any Jamaican coins in my collection that are nearly this old at all. This is a cool one. So a big thanks for that. And, thanks for sending me some cool coins to look at. I, too, do enjoy looking at errors and varieties. And sometimes I don't have the patience to scope everything to see if I can find them. So I've probably passed up on a lot of them. And I'm probably, like most collectors, looking for the ones that are listed in like the Charlton Standard Catalog of Canadian Coins and some of the other sites. But if you've got a keen eye and you've got an interest, you never know what you might find. There are some oddities and strange things that you might get, and some lesser known varieties. I kind of wonder if Hans Zoll was doing a catalog of Canadian errors, dye varieties and things today. There are probably lots from the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, the teens, and now in the 20s that you could list in a catalog like that. And there is actually a resource for modern errors and varieties, and that is this Guide to Collecting Canadian Coinage of Queen Elizabeth II, Types, Varieties, and Errors by Christian Houle and Serge Pelletier. And this outlines in modern Canadian coinage some of these errors and varieties. So taking on the tradition, carrying it on from Hans Zoll with more modern Canadian issues. So if you haven't seen this one, check it out. It's a Lighthouse publication, so you can find it on lighthousecanada.ca. And if you want to get this guide, you can actually use my exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off your purchase. And you might find some of the things here that my subscriber is looking for in this. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that look at some interesting coins, some oddities, some errors, varieties, if you will. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, CAD Roll Hunter, go ahead and click that button and do that now. You won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate it. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.